But personally, one of the most interesting parts of the life and story of Ibrahim alayhi salam was, as a child, Allah had already inspired him with this discernment. وَلَقَدْ آتَيْنَا إِبْرَاهِيمَ رُشْدَهُ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that Ibrahim alayhi salam was already blessed with rushd, discernment, intelligence, and ability to understand that there's something wrong happening in his society. And then the famous story happened where everybody was going to a festival and he stays back saying, Inni saqim, I am unwell, so he can make a plan. What is the plan? He's going to break all of the idols except the big one and leave the axe around its neck. And when people come, they're going to ask, what happened, Ya Ibrahim? And then he would say, go ask this idol. But what's interesting about this entire episode is how from a very young age, Ibrahim alayhi salam already had this ability to not fall into the biggest fads or trends or whatever tended to be popular at the time. He was able to go against the status quo for what seemed to be right. And as parents, one of the biggest concerns that we generally have is that what's going to happen to my children, my child, when he or she goes to school, he or she is going and interacting with the broader society? Would it just be a very quick assimilation where they completely forget their roots, they forget what's right and wrong? And that's why, if there's one thing we can learn, and we learned this from the rest of the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam, that if you have a good relationship with your child, if you have a very early training, then your child will grow up with a basic understanding of what is right and what is wrong. And again, this often doesn't happen from instruction. It doesn't happen from instructing them. It happens from seeing them. So to just give you an example, it's a very small example, but the other day I was just walking with my son and we were passing by an area, and as we're walking by, he just says, Baba, mashallah, this is a Muslim house and this is not a Muslim house. I said, what do you mean it's not a Muslim house? And he says, that time it was Halloween. So they had a bunch of pumpkins in front and they had this picture of a skeleton. And he says, because, I don't know, whenever I see a house of a Muslim, I would see Allah written there, I'll see Bismillah over there, but I've never seen any of the Muslim houses have ghosts and monsters in front of their house. And I said, subhanAllah, I've never really taught him this, but just by observing, you begin to pick certain things up. And we don't realize this, but these subtle cues, the way we do things, am I waking up for Fajr Salah? What do I say when I'm upset? When I am having a bad day, am I losing my temperament? Our children generally associate our behavior with what is considered Islamic. So in a nutshell, and to summarize what I'm trying to say is, it's so important for us to guide our children, but also be role models for our children so that, like Ibrahim alayhi salam, like Ismail alayhi salam, from a very early age, there's already this discernment and idea of Allahumma arina al-haqqa haqqa warzuqna ittiba'a wa arina al-batila batilan warzuqna ijtinaba. That, Ya Allah, show me those things that are false and show them to me as false so that I can avoid them. And what is true, show it to me as truth so that I can follow it. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the direct and right path to follow. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala safeguard us and our families and allow us to follow in the footsteps of the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen.
Assalamu alaikum. Dear brothers, we all want to be successful, and our success lies only in